A look inside MILF Manor today, really, and the latest on the riots in Los Angeles.
It's a Scott Sands show.
Hey there, how y'all doing? Here we go. It's episode 2573 of the Scott Sands Show, the podcast. I did a bunch of shows last week on Super Talk Mississippi, so I'm not really sure if my episode count is correct, but I'm going with 2573 today. And thank you to Telesouth Media for inviting me to guest host all last week on the morning show on Super Talk Mississippi. It's always fun to be back on the radio in what I call my home state of Mississippi. And in fact, I'll be doing the morning show for Richard Cross, great guy. Invited me back again to fill in on Friday morning. And you can stream it everywhere at supertalk.fm. On this podcast, I'd love if you would hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, YouTube, Facebook. Just look for the Scott Sands Show. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, leave comments, leave likes, all of that stuff. If you're on Facebook, hit the stars button, leave gifts, whatever you're supposed to do to benefit me, because that's really what it's all about. And follow on X at Scott Sands Media. Look, I'm hoping that the podcast can sustain itself, which is unlikely during my time of unemployment. By the way, if you're looking for someone who can do comms, PR, marketing, whatever for your agency, happy to help as a consultant on an interim basis. You can find me everywhere I just mentioned. Thank you to the official partner of the Scott Sands Show podcast, Americans for Prosperity, Ohio. Be sure to visit BuckeyeBlueprint.com to learn what they're doing for the state. I think there's a big gathering of the AFP people in D.C. this week to talk with members of Congress about the big, beautiful bill, which is very important to pass. And I realize there's some pork in there, and we'd love to see bigger spending cuts. That was the gist of the whole spat last week between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, which shows signs, perhaps, of mended fences. Over the weekend, I saw some encouraging tweets, comments, reposts from Elon Musk over the weekend that seems to show that he's willing to make up with President Trump, as we kind of expected he would. Before my guest, Lanette West from MILF Manor, joins us, let's talk about the big, beautiful bill. Let's talk about the violence in Los Angeles over the last couple of days, violent scenes over the weekend from the streets of L.A. And last night, President Trump vowed to press ahead with immigration sweeps in cities all across America. He said, I think you're going to see some very strong law and order. We're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. And Republicans are hailing the tough talk as many Republican lawmakers called for deportations. Pat Harrigan, the congressman from North Carolina, said, all I see is torched cars and foreign flags on American streets. This isn't a peaceful protest. It looks like a foreign invasion, added Doug LaMalfa, the congressman, a congressman from California. Meanwhile, Democrats appealing for calm, saying that anything that remotely resembles an altercation or violence will be exploited by Trump. That was Sam Liccardo from California. And Democrats denouncing the use of National Guard troops. Joaquin Castro of Texas saying this action is escalatory and authoritarian. Republicans have been very effective in recent years tying Democrats to illegal immigration, and rightfully so, as we saw 10 million cross the border illegally under President Biden. And Republicans clearly see this opportunity unfolding again today. Tom Cotton said, voting Democrat is voting to support the criminal illegal aliens rioting in the streets waving Mexican flags. And if you're on the Trump side, you probably could not have imagined any better political visuals than what Cotton noted. But don't forget what happened in 2020 as well, and the visuals that came out of the George Floyd protests, which also were extremely violent. I saw an interesting post from James Woods. This was very weird, sharing video of violence on the streets of Los Angeles. And Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, clarified on X, saying, to be clear, these videos were from 2020, not from this weekend. So let me get this straight, Governor Newsom. What you're saying is that this was violence on the streets of one of your cities 4 years ago and not the violence on your streets today. Just there seems to be a pattern of violence that's happening under your watch. And Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles, just maybe the problem is you, is all I'm saying. And I don't want to get into this too much because this is a podcast and events could easily change by the time I record this and it gets published and you have a chance to watch it. So I'm not going to talk about any breaking news, but one of the interesting parts of the violence on the streets of Los Angeles to me was what happened to the Waymo vehicles. Waymo is this self-driving autonomous vehicle company. It's like Uber, but you can hail a Waymo. It will come pick you up and there's nobody driving it. And people were hailing Waymos to the violence, then setting the Waymo vehicles on fire. And it was frightening, alarming to see the amount of violence against law enforcement officials, which is why President Trump called in the National Guard to try to defend members of law enforcement who were pinned down and who did not come to the aid of ICE agents who were under siege, essentially at the ICE detention facility in Los Angeles. And amidst all of this unrest in Los Angeles, House Republicans taking the first step today on a bill to fund Homeland Security measures for next year, which includes immigration enforcement. Meeting of the House Appropriations Committee could bring some fireworks as the Trump administration moves to round up even more illegal immigrants. The Republican bill would increase funding for immigration and customs enforcement from $9.5 billion to nearly $11 billion. $9.5 billion to $11 billion. More money to catch, jail, deport illegal immigrants, which is what Trump supporters voted for. Republicans wasted no time saying this bill showed the difference between the two parties on immigration. Mark Amodei of Nevada, who leads the Republican efforts to fund DHS, said, "We are no longer being forced to fund an agency that neglected its duties." It's not just money either. This same Republican bill will block any federal funding going to a sanctuary city or county like Los Angeles, which hinders the federal government from enforcing the immigration laws. The plan also eliminates $650 million for the Shelter and Services Program, which is a controversial program which had FEMA providing short-term housing for migrants. The Republican bill also cuts $1.7 billion for facilities to help process people who have come into the country illegally. Some other things catching my eye in the Republican funding bill. President Trump and top officials often talk about doing away with FEMA, but you wouldn't know it from this bill. It gives FEMA $31.8 billion, which is about $4.5 billion above this year. It does take an axe to CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency. The report notes there is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, which is why you may now understand why Donald Trump doesn't like CISA. One more note on immigration. The bill continues a yearly ban against the feds imposing any kind of toll or fee for crossing into the U.S. at a land port of entry. In fact, the bill once again bars even studying the idea of a fee for pedestrians, cyclists, or drivers. And this bill is not just immigration or enforcement matters. Big week for Congress and the Pentagon. A House spending panel will release its draft funding bill for the military today for next year. Pete Hegseth testifies tomorrow in the House and Wednesday in the Senate. We'll see if the Pentagon is finally ready to reveal a battery of detailed budget decisions from the White House. Meanwhile, big, beautiful bill. Social media jabs between Donald Trump and Elon Musk seemed to subside over the weekend, but one big question remains. Is that spat really endangering this tax and budget bill in Congress? So far, no evidence of a Musk-inspired wave of Republicans demanding major changes. And certainly there are problems with the big, beautiful bill. It is way too big, doesn't really cut as much as I would like to see cut, but it does contain a lot of things that we need to do, like make the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. Pass no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, things that would stimulate the economy of the country. Senator Rand Paul said the spending proposed in this bill is unsustainable, and he's right. Hopefully that will all be addressed in future rescission packages, bigger than the rescission package proposed, and in the 12 appropriations bills yet to come. As I've said, we need across-the-board spending cuts in everything, every aspect of the federal government, including even in defense. The big, beautiful bill still going through the Senate parliamentarian, going through the bird bath, if you will, the Senator Bird. Any reconciliation package has to address only spending matters and the budget. It really can't address policy. So we'll see what changes the Senate finds before they can send it back to the House. And we'll see what the rescission package looks like from the White House. It's $9.4 billion, raising about $8.3 billion in foreign aid funding, $1.1 billion in money for public radio and television. There could be a vote as early as Thursday before the House leaves for, yes, another 10 days. Their 11-day Memorial Day vacation wasn't quite enough. They will take another 10-day vacation. You'll hear a lot of Republicans talking about how this money was spent on things like $3 million on Iraqi Sesame Street. But actually, the cuts are in money which hasn't been spent yet by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Cuts need to be made, but also cuts need to be made. We'll continue to follow this story, of course. A couple of other things that caught my eye this week. TSA, the Transportation Safety Administration, trying to shut down rumors that travelers can use their Costco membership cards as a replacement for the real ID at airport security. Now, look, there may be a lot of vetting that goes into getting a Costco membership, but just because that card has a star on it and your picture on it, you can't use that to get on a plane. The truth is, you can bring other photo IDs to help verify your identity if you don't have a real ID, but a Costco card alone will not get you through airport security. My birthday is later this month. I don't think my driver's license is up quite yet, but I am going to go into the BMV. I got to get my tag renewed. I know I can do that online or stop in like a Kroger store and do it easily, but I'm going to go into the BMV with all of my paperwork and finally get a real ID. Hopefully my next job will involve some travel. I'll be flying again, and I don't want to have to deal with the hassle of not having a real ID. My other favorite story of the week, and there were several, I think, but this one caught my eye too. Did you see the story of Ed the zebra? So this zebra was on the loose in Tennessee for, I think, at least a week, maybe a couple of weeks. And they finally caught it. There were some great videos from Ring doorbell cameras, from TV station helicopters, of the zebra just running through neighborhoods, having a grand old time. They finally caught it yesterday. I don't know how, but I saw the picture of the helicopter carrying Ed the zebra in a net overhead. And the look on the zebra's face, he had no regrets. Looked like he had the time of his life, and he was sorry he got caught. They were taking the zebra back. I think it's a privately owned zebra, which I did not even know was legal. I didn't know you could have a zebra as a pet, but apparently this is a pet zebra. So they're not taking it back to a zoo. I guess they're taking it back to the sky and maybe encouraging to get higher fences so the zebra can no longer escape. But the look on, if I hopefully in post-production on the podcast, I've popped up a picture of the zebra being carried by a helicopter and a net, and you can see what I mean with the look of no regrets. I love that story. Good for Ed. Hope he had a great couple of weeks running around town in Tennessee. Lanette West is a business professional, a single mom from North Carolina who shot to stardom last year in 2024 on the HBO Max TLC reality series MILF Manor. I said MILF Manor, where she stole America's heart. And now she speaks on the topics of addiction recovery, mental health, and all the things that the average American woman would like to talk about out loud, but often does not. Lanette West is joining me now on the Scott Sand Show podcast. Lanette, you stole everybody's heart on MILF Manor, and now you're stealing my heart. I want to get into some of the serious topics in a minute, but first you got to tell me all about MILF Manor. I admit I have not watched the show, but I've seen the promos on TV, and the concept amuses me, frightens me, and fascinates me.
Well, you're not alone in that respect, I don't believe.
So for anybody not familiar with the show, can you try to explain the concept?
Yeah, it's a dating reality show. It's not a porn, even though
No,
sounds like
it. I think I've seen that actual video. But
Yeah, this was made for TV. They bleeped our cussing and everything. So
Right.
this is pretty PG-13, I guess you would say.
But the dating show was kind of a twist because all of you ladies were on there with your sons, and your sons were dating other MILFs in the manor.
Well, okay, here's an important distinction. There's season 1 and now there's season 2. Thank God I didn't get cast for season 1, even though I auditioned for it unknowingly with my son. So I got in
So what's the
season
difference in
two's
season
twist.
two?
It's season 2 twist. It's the young guys and their fathers this time.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a different twist.
okay, that's unusual.
Yeah. So our dating pool were these young guys and their very attractive, fun dads.
So, did you realize what you were auditioning for at the time?
Absolutely not. I was told it was a show called Northern Love, where older women, in their 40s and 50s, would be dating guys in their 20s and 30s, as well as guys that were more age appropriate. So a mixture of ages, which turned out to be true. But they just left off the minor detail of what the name of the show was because they were trying to
Right.
keep it top secret. Like I didn't know until the day before we started filming that it was MILF Manor season 2.
So your son was not on this season with you.
No,
That would have been awkward.
to say the very least. Absolutely.
I can't. How would you have felt with your son dating, going after women your age?
I would not have been down for that at all. I probably would not have participated. I'll be honest with you. I probably would have caused quite a stink because I would have left. Because that's just a level of trauma that my son does not need. He's had enough trauma in his life. He doesn't need that too.
So on the season that you're on,
Hmm.
you got a bunch of younger men and a bunch of age appropriate men.
Yes.
To whom were you more attracted, and did you give them both a shot?
I was definitely more attracted to the age appropriate men. It was a relief when they showed up on day 2 because I was mothering the young guys. I mean, I called them kids. They were in many cases younger than my own son. So I wanted to, take care of them and help them and guide them and mentor them. I didn't want to hook up with them or sleep with them. That was kind of gross to me.
But I'm sure there were other women your age, other MILFs on the show that were all for the young studs. I mean, they say that you're at your sexual peak at your age, and the guys are obviously ready to go at that age.
They're ready to go at any age. Yeah, that's true. And that certainly isn't to cast any kind of shame on those that did choose to go with the younger guys. Because to be completely honest with you, I have dated guys that were significantly younger than myself, but I always used my son's age as the cutoff line.
So what is that? What is that cutoff line for you?
He's 28 now. So as he continues to age, that becomes more problematic for me.
So what's the youngest guy you've been with?
Well, it's really determined by what age I was, right? Because like when I was 45 or 46, dating a 25-year-old, not so bad. Me now at 52, dating a 25, 26-year-old, that's pushing the boundaries for me. But I think I've gone as much as 20 years younger.
Well, see, I will admit that I have as well, and it may be fun. You may like the idea, but there's really nothing in common to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't do a whole lot of talking.
I love you.
No, I mean, obviously, you have to have some sort of rapport, right? But you're correct. I mean, it's a totally different generation, and I'm part of Gen X, which we're kind of our own unique beasts in and of ourselves. So, I didn't have a lot as far as historically speaking in common with them, but we found current topics to talk about: politics, social media, things like that. But it wasn't. In all fairness, it wasn't a real emotional attachment. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, and just in general, dating today is horrible. And I don't know what your experience is, but I think the younger generation is having a hard time because of all of the apps, which first of all, make everything so superficial when you're swiping left and right based purely on somebody's appearance.
Hmm.
But also, I think that kids, I'm using the term kids now, have lost social skills because they don't
Absolutely.
know. First of all, you don't know the rejection of going up to a girl in a bar. You don't know the rejection of trying to meet a woman in the street and use, I don't know, your best pickup line or whatever. So those social skills are becoming a lost art.
I would agree with that. It's like everything's becoming very disposable and quickly replaceable. And I don't think that bodes well for society in general, to be honest with you. And I think we're seeing our younger folks struggle with that because I don't think we're headed in the right direction there at all. And I've done Tinder and Bumble and Plenty of Fish and all of that. And I made some connections. I met a boyfriend off there. It turned out to be a complete, absolute train wreck. And he was age appropriate. He was actually exactly my age. So maybe I don't even know if it's the tool itself or if it's the people utilizing them that are really in trouble.
Well, and today too, I mean, catfishing has always been a problem since the invention of the internet. But
Hmm.
now you can run your pictures through artificial intelligence and shave 20 or 30 pounds off, take some age off, whatever you want to
Hmm.
do.
And I've never really understood why women would do that because for me, because obviously you're going to meet in person, right? That being the goal, I would never want to show up and have some guy look at me and go, oh,
Ooh,
or be
what happened here?
disappointed. Like, how, I mean, my ego couldn't take that. Not at all.
Well, I've dropped 100 pounds in the last year and a half, so I had to make sure to go through all of my apps and change all the pictures.
And you did that probably excitedly.
Absolutely. What was the whole MILF Manor experience like? What's it like? How long were you locked up? Because you're
Hmm.
completely cut off from the outside world, and the producers control
Exactly.
your life at that point.
You're absolutely correct. It was about 3 weeks. I didn't make it, but a couple weeks. I don't remember the actual number of days, but I left with, I know 6 days were still left in filming. So I missed the last 6 days and I was kind of in the dark about what had happened during that time. But it was several weeks and it was difficult. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, at first, you're all energized and the novelty of it hasn't worn off, but by like day 6, 7, and 8, I mean, there are no days off. You're filming from 8 o'clock in the morning until sometimes 2, 3 in the morning. And it's exhausting. It's a lot like work.
And the producers are trying to fill you up with alcohol, I'm sure, to lower your inhibitions.
There
They're
was
exploiting your emotions and all of the drama that may be around from being locked on the same set with everybody.
Yeah, everything was just amplified. I think that's a fair statement. Now, they were very cautious about the alcohol. In fact, I saw them several times removing alcohol from people because they didn't want it to be a sloppy drunk fest, right? They just wanted enough to take the edge off and kind of open you up a little bit, make you a little more
Right.
relaxed. But they would pass out, shots before like a challenge or something, and I would just take it and be like, oh. Because I couldn't. I'm not a tequila kind of person anyway, but some of that was going on, but I wouldn't say that it was excessive. You know.
Did what got you kicked off of the or out of the MILF Manor? I don't know how it works. Were you voted out? Where did you not hook up with enough guys? I don't know what the rules were.
Well, I left of my own volition. I was the only one that left. You know, of their own accord. So I left because I just decided that what, this isn't fun. This isn't a good time. I was emotionally distraught. I'm not gonna lie. I got really upset because the guy I had a connection with was telling me one thing but doing something else with another woman in the house. And once I got wind of it,
So just like them, so that's what guys do. I hate to admit.
yeah, well, not on my watch and not on national TV. I'm not going to be made a fool of. I've been made a fool of plenty in my regular life. I don't need that shit publicized, you know?
Did you did you hook up with anybody?
We hooked up. I mean, we didn't like do the deed or anything. But yeah, I mean, we were affectionate, we were physical, but we spent the night in the real fee room. Um, yeah, I can explain that offline, but it was, where you could go and couple up and spend the night together. And there are cameras everywhere, night vision cameras, audio, everything. So, I had told him going in there, I was like, I don't know what your expectations are, but I am not sleeping with you, I'm not going to do it. And he was obviously in agreement. He was like, yeah, that's just not appropriate at this point. So we didn't, but
But
we
it,
spent time.
I'm sure it happened.
Oh, with other people? Oh, most definitely. Most
Do
definitely.
they do STD checks?
They do. We had blood tests
Okay.
and STD screenings, HIV screenings, all of that. Psychological screenings, which obviously they
I was
didn't
going to
do.
say there better be a psychological test involved with this too.
Yeah, clearly that didn't weed me out. But
Well,
yes.
and maybe all of the dating apps should have the STD and psychological profiles done as well. That might help a lot of people.
Well, I think it would really cut down on their traffic. It might really hurt their business.
Boy, I did the story last week. Tinder is now going to let you screen by height, which for short kings like myself is really an unfair advantage to women.
Well, I think some things, because we're all right, we all have our preferences or what have you, but that's why I think shows like Love is Blind are so popular because it's kind of nice to get to know somebody. Because I've gone out with guys that I maybe wasn't initially physically attracted to or thought they were hot, but they were appealing on some level. And it just goes to show that there's more of a connection there than just what meets the eye.
Well, that's why ugly men like me have to develop the coping mechanism to be able to make women laugh, develop an intelligence, be able to hold a conversation. All pros that work in our favor sometimes.
Absolutely, because you can take a good-looking person and give them a bad heart, and they're ugly to me. You know what I mean? It's got to be the total package. It's got to all be there.
So, your experience on MILF Manor is something you enjoyed? Do you regret doing it now?
No, I have no regrets. I don't regret anything I do because worst case scenario, it's a great lesson. And it's, something to talk about. It was fun. I mean, it was exciting because we were pampered and treated like celebrities at one point. We did a press tour in New York City, and that was pretty cool because where else would somebody like me have an opportunity to do something like that?
Did you get any backlash, especially from people who have known you a long time?
No backlash. People were surprisingly supportive, or they were just silent. A lot of people were
Which
silent.
speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Do you carry the MILF badge with honor now?
I really should. At some points, it was a little embarrassing because it's kind of vulgar and inappropriate, depending on the context, right? But it's
Right.
something I'm just going to lean into. I mean, I guess there are worse things, right, to be called. I certainly have been called worse things. So, especially as I'm older and I'm getting into my mid 50s, I'm really kind of leaning into it and embracing it.
Yeah, because at some point, I think there may be some regret that you're no longer somebody to elf.
Well, exactly. Because at some point, I'm going to stop the Botox and the filler and the CO2 pills and the laser, and I'll just be
It's a
old.
lot of you're high maintenance.
Yeah, well, I pay for it myself, so.
The upside of this is that the newfound fame, the
Mhm.
attention has been able to give you a platform to talk about some important things.
Absolutely, because the exiting of the show in such dramatic fashion stirred up a lot of emotion, I think, between myself and some of the viewers. And several, and when I say several, I'm talking hundreds, reached out and said, "Oh my God, Lynette, like that resonated with me. I have a sister who's like you. Her picker is broken." And so I started realizing that, maybe I would have an opportunity to give a voice to folks who don't otherwise have one, or maybe reach people who are in a dark place and need some encouragement, some hope when there is none. Because I've been there, and people look at me and they obviously know I need therapy right from the show, but they don't understand the scope of things that I've been through in my life because fortunately I don't think I wear it on my sleeve so much. But I just wanted to talk about it and maybe destigmatize some of this and take some of the shame and embarrassment away from it. Because I do like to talk and I do like to share things that have happened in hopes that other people can relate, other people can understand they're not alone, and hopefully make a difference, even if it's just for one person.
It's hard sometimes to talk about my family. My ex doesn't necessarily like when I brought up my past addictions,
Hmm.
but I think that story has the ability to help other people who are going through a similar time in their life and similar struggles.
Mhm.
I think we all deal with emotional ups and downs differently. So many people today, and this is what's odd. I've never been to therapy per se. I've talked to a couple of times and just never clicked or found anybody that
Mm.
I think I would have liked.
Mhm.
But so many people today are like turning to Chat GPT and Grok and artificial intelligence as their therapist. And I don't know how healthy that is, but I guess if you're talking to somebody and it's able to give you some advice, that's better than nothing.
Well, that's true. Something is better than nothing, but you have to be careful and you have to be with someone you trust. I'm not sure I would trust AI at this point. I mean, it's been around for a little while, but it's still all in all in its infancy, and I'm just not sure how reliable or consistent that could be for somebody. But that human element is important. I think that relationship that you can maintain and build with a therapist is so critical. It's almost as difficult as finding a partner in a romantic sense, because you have to kind of jive. Like you were saying, you didn't find someone that you clicked with. And once you do, hold on to that, because that's really important. And I think that's really where you can make some great progress.
Yeah, the few times that I've tried to start my story, and I get tired of sharing it. It's not that I'm necessarily embarrassed of it. So maybe, well, I am embarrassed of a lot of things I've done, but I just don't want to get into it, and I give up and just, oh, what's wrong with me, Doc?
Yeah. Well,
What do I do?
here's a good
You're not
barometer.
going to be able to offer any better advice than I've tried to figure out on my
Oh,
own, and I keep screwing it up.
yeah, yeah. Well, come talk to me once you make your therapist cry. I made mine
So,
cry, so
so,
I think that's a
I
good
mean,
barometer.
do you mind sharing? Like, what do people? What have people come to you being able to relate to in your struggles?
Well, it's funny because when the show aired, I didn't remember saying anything that I said on the show, because I would watch it and go, "Oh, that was pretty good," or I would say, "Oh God, that was cringy." But when I was talking about just the whole being rejected and feeling like it's your fault, you're not enough, a lot of people really related and it resonated, because I think a lot of times we always think it's about us, when in all actuality, it really has more to do with the other person involved. It's not really about you as often as you think it is. And that's
Honey,
something.
it's always about
Yeah,
me.
I know, right? I'm kind of egocentric like that too. I think everything's about me.
And, and look, it's always my fault. I don't care what's happened. It is my fault.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm right there, especially if you've ever dated a narcissist. Of course, everything's your fault.
What if you are the narcissist? Then you're really screwed.
Then you're double dipped.
So what's life been like after the show? Obviously, you're sharing your journey and your story.
Mhm.
Have you been able to find love since leaving the manor?
Oh God, no, not even close. I've thrown in the towel. I've more or less given up. Um, I don't do the dating sites anymore. I don't do the apps. I don't go out. I play tennis now. I got back into that after about a 6 year hiatus. And I'm just using this time to focus on me and do these podcasts and have the opportunity to speak with amazing people like yourself, who will give me the opportunity to talk and hopefully be heard. And again, hopefully reach somebody who needs to be reached.
Well, and I'm glad to hear that you're playing tennis and haven't fallen into the pickleball cult yet.
I want to, though. I'm not going to lie. I've played a couple
I,
times. It's,
I it's fun. I don't
yeah,
understand the rules,
no.
but it seems fun. And there's usually drinking involved, I'm told.
Well, and there's just less court to cover. Like if you're good at the net in
Right.
tennis, I think those skills translate really well. So I'm kind of, I'll admit it, I'm excited to play pickleball. I think it would be fun. It's so much less court to cover. And boy, tennis, as I was reminded a couple weeks ago when I first took my lesson, I don't have my tennis legs. And like I'm older now. Like it's hard. Tennis is hard.
It's a hard way. Did you watch the what was it, the French
Oh,
Open this weekend? I saw everybody talking about it on social
yeah, they
media.
make it look so effortless. That's how you know they're good.
They make TV golf looks effortless too, but my golf game is nothing like
I
I see
know.
Scotty Scheffler play.
Right.
So, what do you hope people take away from watching you on MILF Manor, hearing your message? What do you hope people remember about you?
Well, I hope that they remember and respect the fact that I was being genuine, that I was being myself. I mean, sure, was I on my best behavior? I tried to be for the most part, but I was sincere, I was genuine, I was real. I'm not perfect, I'm incredibly flawed, but that doesn't mean that I don't deserve happiness too. And hopefully they see a little bit of themselves in that.
Well, and that sounds like you had a pretty positive experience on the show, that you think that you were portrayed accurately. So many people I hear that I've known that have been through reality TV were made the villain, or were made to be the slut, or were portrayed differently than they were, because the producers are trying to put on an entertaining show. So they're going to craft the plot line the way they want it to look.
That's fair. But I will say there was some guidance, obviously, from the producers, but nothing was manufactured. I mean, all of my words were my words. Now, did they say, hey, Lanette, go check out Anthony and Rebecca in the realty room? You might want to go look at that. And I walk in and go, what the fuck? Oh my God. And I have a reaction, but that was my reaction. I mean, they guided it, but I think people were pretty much true to nature. And I think the casting is what was so good for that, because they didn't have to change people from who they were. People just showed up and showed themselves.
And it kind of gets amplified
sure.
a little bit, and it sounds like perhaps this has clarified your mind on what you're looking for and what you want out of your own
Oh,
life.
absolutely. For me, selfishly, it's like I've got to make sense of my suffering and like what I've been through. I can't think that I just went through all this shit just to hurt, just to feel pain and to recover for myself. It gives me a greater sense of urgency and importance to think that I could make a difference for somebody else and give this stuff some sort of deeper meaning.
Would you recommend doing a reality show to anybody
Oh, it
else?
totally depends on your personality. Now, some people would be great. Like, I have a lot of friends that would knock it out of the park. I have some that it would absolutely traumatize and change forever. So it totally depends. If you've got a pretty secure sense of who you are and okay with displaying that and opening yourself up to some criticism, I say sure, try it. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
You got to tell me more about this realty room or whatever
Oh,
it was called.
Rilfi. It's RILFI. Room I'd like to in.
Ah, I
Yeah.
gotcha. Now, now it all makes sense. I hope they at least change the sheets every day in there.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure they did, or I'm sure somebody did. Like, we did our own dishes and stuff. Like, we didn't have maid service or anything. I mean, there were some people there helping with like behind the scenes, like with towels and stuff. But I'm not sure that anybody did, to be honest. But I was in there for the first time. We were the first people in there, so I'm fine.
That's
That's
safe.
safe.
Were there any black lights in the building at all? Any black lights in the manor?
Like how you would check the hotel sheets. Yeah.
Right. It all seems
It
weird.
is.
So now that you're out of the
Mhm.
manor and you've sworn off some of the apps and things, what would you look for in a man? How would you go about meeting the new love of your life?
God, I don't, you know what? I hate to sound so pessimistic, but I'm not even looking for it. I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that I'm just a lone wolf. I'm a lot. I'm a handful. And the older I get and the longer I'm alone, the less likely I think it is for me to take a mate, because I just like, what's the point? I mean, I go out. I mean, I have needs that are met, but as far as finding like a real partner, I'll never get married again. I say the only exception to that rule would be if he had a lot of assets that I needed to attach my name to. Otherwise, I am definitely never getting married again. But there is some small part of me that is the hopeless romantic that thinks there's got to be somebody somewhere. But the bigger part of me is like, don't hang your hat on that. Don't be disappointed if it doesn't work out.
How do you feel about long distance relationships?
Let's talk.
Lanette West, it's great to meet you. Thank you for sharing your story and taking us a little bit behind the scenes of MILF Manor. How can people find you? I know you're on TikTok, all the social medias. How can people
Yeah,
find
I'm
you?
on Instagram. I'm most active there at Lanette.West, and I've got a funky spelling of my first name. It's LANNETTE.West, and that one's easy, WEST.
Lanette, great to have you on.
Thank
Thank you
you
so
for
much.
having me. Thanks.
If you want to see Lanette and catch up on last season of MILF Manor, it's streaming on demand, HBO Max and TLC. I feel obligated now to watch some of MILF Manor. By the way, can I point out how weird the lighting is? Remind me not to record episodes of the podcast in the afternoon. Weird lights coming in, and you know I've never been happy with my home studio. Quick shout out to my friends at Alp Nicotine Pouches. If you use nicotine pouches, try Alp. There's a link in my bio, a link in the comments on Facebook, where you can save 10% on your first purchase of Alp nicotine pouches. This is Tucker Carlson's company. And if you use nicotine pouches, I think they've got a better flavor. The flavor lasts longer. They're moisture. You get more in a 10. I think some of the other products only have like 15 pouches in a 10. These have 20 in a 10. Less expensive. You save money. And they're better, in my opinion. This product does contain nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Must be 21 or over. Use my link. Save 10% on Alp nicotine pouches. This is the new sweet nectar flavor, which is only available for a limited time. A couple other things to hit on today. Did they ever get the cat out of the tree in Defiance? Did you see the story over the weekend? It was in Defiance. Some cat had been stranded 60 feet up in a tree for 6 days, and it sparked a neighbor dispute. The cat's name is Hayes, owned by, I think I'm getting their last name correctly, McGuians, and it disappeared like last weekend, 2 weekends ago. And after a few days, they finally heard some meows, and they looked up and saw him in a tree. A local tree service couldn't reach. The bucket truck wasn't high enough because of a fence there. And Hayes, the cat, kept climbing the tree even higher because the cat was scared. So they called in some other help. There's actually a company, a nonprofit called Treetop Cat Rescue. And this guy, Angelo, came there to Defiance, sat in the tree while he and the homeowners were trying to talk to the cat, trying to coax it down for like half an hour, and couldn't do it, in part because the tree is on the property of their next door neighbor. And the neighbor let the dogs out while the cat rescue was underway, which scared the poor cat. Hayes went even higher. And apparently that caused a little dispute between the homeowner, the property owner, and the cat rescue guy, Angelo. And Angelo was kicked off of the property. There is now an attorney involved as of a couple of days ago who says that rescuing the cat from the tree is a legally gray area. He pointed to the doctrine of private necessity, which may allow someone to enter another's property to retrieve their personal belongings, but they could be responsible for damages. And as word of the standoff spread, the property owner began to receive threats. And as a result, we have a situation of neighbors divided. The homeowner says he's going to help with the rescue by paying a company to come out to try to rescue the cat. But the last time I saw, the cat was still stuck in a tree in Defiance. I'm hoping Hayes is safe. It's been a few days since I've seen the story, so hopefully poor Hayes is fine now. If somebody has seen an update, please let me know. I put this story up on my Facebook page, The Scott Sands Show, because I love a good power ballad. I'm a very sensitive guy, as you've come to learn. Ultimate Classic Rock ranked the 50 greatest power ballads in rock history. Most of them are from the 80s, which probably should not be a surprise. And I agree with so many of these on the list. Heaven by Bryan Adams, Night Ranger's Sister Christian, Home Sweet Home, Motley Crue, Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is, might be one of my favorites, but not the best in my opinion. They have Journey, Don't Stop Believing on the list of the greatest power ballads of all time. That's borderline, yeah, one of the greatest songs of the 80s and one of the greatest songs of all time. Not quite sure it's a power ballad, but maybe you could classify it that way. November Rain is up there. I definitely agree with them 1,000%. Greatest power ballad of all time, 1984, Prince, Purple Rain. Would you agree with me? Greatest power ballad of all time? Leave yours in the comments on my Facebook page, The Scott Sands Show. Jamie Wietrikowski, my buddy from Four Guys and a Roof. You can find him online. 4guysandaroof.com is joining me now as we get ready for summer. Maybe you've had some storm damage, you got a leak, you need a new roof, you're trying to increase your property value, whatever the reason, you need to call Jamie and Mike at 4guysandaroof.com. Jamie, how are you? Great to see you.
Oh, we're doing good today, Scott.
You know, as we're thinking about roofing, I noticed that this has been an unusually quiet spring as far as severe storms. We've had a couple of thunderstorms come through, but nothing really bad.
Nothing but nonstop rain, which it wasn't heavy or directional to cause any damage, but just nonstop rain.
Does that cause problems for roofs? I know that we've talked about gutters before.
Well, if we get a northeast driving rain, Scott, it sounds odd, but after roofing for 26 years, when we get a northeast driving rainstorm, I'll get calls from the homeowner saying, hey, I have a leak, and I've never had a leak before. And a lot of times the response will be, can you come and take a look at it? And then I'll describe to them on the phone, hey, is this where the house meets the garage, or where a dormer's tied into a roof, a window above a garage? And they're like, yeah, how did you know? And long story short, houses are not designed to take rain from the northeast for whatever reason, Scott. No idea why, they're just not.
So we should all build houses that don't have a northeast corner.
Well, northeast penetrations, windows, dormers, garages, absolutely.
So what do you do different? I was fascinated when I went to a job site with you last time, the whole process that goes into installing a roof as an Owens Corning Platinum Preferred installer.
What I like to do to set myself aside from the other roofing companies is the details. Like the dumpster company we use, Haul Anything, they will put 2x12s, 2x10s down underneath the sleds of the dumpster to protect whether you have an asphalt driveway, whether you have a concrete or stone driveway even. Those sleds, as they come up and back onto the trailer after it's loaded, can leave scratch or drag marks. And on asphalt driveways, it actually can dent or dimple the driveway.
2x4, 2x12, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, Scott.
And you guys do such an amazing job making sure that nobody's garden or shrubbery or flower garden or bushes or yard gets damaged as they're slinging all the shingles off the roof.
What we like to do, Scott, is we use what's called an equipter. Some of the crews have equipters, some of them don't. The equipter is basically a powered dumpster that we can drive onto the property, lift up to the roof line, and pitch the shingles directly into there. If we have a crew that does not have an equipter, what they do is they'll protect the gutters from the shingles sliding down the roof with tarps. Then those tarps will go over top of all the bushes and the shrubs. And if there's any very delicate flowers like tulips or annuals that are just planted, we'll actually protect those with either wood, plywood, or garbage cans.
We've talked about before how fast your crew works. Sometimes you can get an entire roof replacement done same day. We went out to a job site at lunchtime and they were already almost done with the site. So you guys move fast. You get estimates back in 24 hours or less. Everything you do is quick and urgent because if you got a bad roof, if you got rain coming in, you want that replaced and fixed fast.
Scott, nobody wants to have their roof replacement take longer than 2 days. 3 days is
especially your
a
neighbors.
monster.
Your neighbors don't want that happening either.
No, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it. And you'll see some companies, I hear nightmare stories where the materials in the dumpster get delivered days before they start the roof. Then a couple guys show up from the roofing crew. They'll work for a couple hours, go home. I've heard nightmare stories where it takes a week to 10 days to do a small roof.
No, you want to get in and out of there fast. Get it done same day if you can. Go ahead.
Absolutely, Scott. No roofing company wants the liability of leaving any customer's roof open to the chance of getting a pop-up rainstorm overnight, which can cause severe drywall damage.
Yeah, and one of the things I've noticed too, as an Owens Corning Platinum Preferred installer, there are actually true definition designer color shingles that you can get, including a special summer color that you just installed at a home in Lambertville.
That is correct. The summer harvest, the designer shingles that Owens Corning came up with about 15 to 20 years ago is when they started. The name speaks for itself, designer. So they are a little bit more expensive than the standard colors. But if you are looking to make a pop in your neighborhood, your subdivision, your older farm home, go with the designer series and you can really set yourself aside from the neighbors that have the same colors repeated for the past 30 years.
You'll really add some value to the home too, and you could get that lifetime warranty with Owens Corning too.
Yeah, Scott, us being a platinum installer for Owens Corning, we meet the requirements of using the proper underlayments, ice guards, ridge cap. Owens Corning requires you to use very specific materials to meet that lifetime labor and material guarantee.
Jamie, what we're doing too on social media right now, you got a $50 gift card to Mail Pouch Saloon. We need people to follow you on Facebook or Instagram. Look up Four Guys on a Roof. And Friday, you and I are going to pick another winner to win another $50 gift card from Mail Pouch Saloon for everybody that's following Four Guys on a Roof on Facebook or Instagram.
Absolutely, Scott. I'm going to look forward to finding some new friendly face that likes us on Facebook, Instagram, and have them go enjoy a great meal out at the Mail Pouch there in Swan, Ohio.
Jamie, great to see you. We'll talk soon.
Good to see you, Scott. Thank you.
That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Scott Sands Show, the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, YouTube, Facebook. We're on X sometimes, at Scott Sands Media. Thank you so much for watching. Back with another episode later this week.